All right, I know it's still a couple minutes till 11, but maybe while we're waiting on just a couple more people to come in the chat, if you'd like to share where you're zooming in from. I've personally worked in Newport News Public Schools and Chesapeake Public Schools, and now I'm at Catholic High School in Virginia Beach. So tell me where you guys are from. Shenandoah County. Welcome, Christy. Frederick County, welcome, Rebecca. Hi, everyone. Go ahead and share in the chat where you are coming from, where you're zooming in from. Rockbridge County Schools, Allegheny Highlands Public Schools. That's a mouthful. Welcome, Angie. Craig County Public Schools. Welcome, Melinda. Gloucester. Welcome, Hannah. And what about positions? What is everyone currently doing? Teacher, admin, tech. Ooh, 2 jobs, Angie. Kudos to you. Prince William County, a little closer. Very neat. It seems like we have a wide variety of people from all over the state. Seems like most of you from the Western corridor. So welcome. Today we're going to be talking about bringing digital citizenship to your school. I'm really going to try my hardest not to bore you on this topic. I know this is a topic that's been around for, many years. Digital citizenship is one of those key terms that has been in our vocabulary toolbox as educators for years. But are we intentionally teaching this? Are we going through the motions to set steps, have committees, do what we need to do to make sure our students are actually engaging with that topic, and that we are setting trends for our students, setting expectations for them as future citizens as well. I am going to introduce myself here for a second. I'm the current educational technology coordinator at Catholic High School here in Virginia Beach. Essentially, that title is I do everything tech in the building. So I do everything from educational technology with our teachers to fixing our Wi-Fi and cabling security cameras. So mine is quite the array of technology within our building, but it's been really fun, and it has really tested my creative skills in making things work. So I know some of my tech people out there can probably relate to the love-hate relationship with Wi-Fi. That's definitely a good portion of my stress. But before I was in tech, I just started tech in 2021. And it was because I was the impatient teacher. Can anyone relate? I was the person that was like, I don't have time during my lesson to wait for someone to come to my classroom and fix this issue for me. I need to figure this out right now. Or I don't have time to wait on someone else to fix this jam in the copy machine. I'm going to figure it out my best. So that's where I got to my current position. I formerly taught English for 10 years before I started my tech position. So it's quite a jump. I'm still teaching one English class now, but it's thrilling. I really love like the two extreme perspectives and everything that I'm learning in tech, and I hope you guys can relate as well. You have my contact information below. I'm going to be honest with you, I don't use Twitter a whole lot, so if you want to get in touch with me, you can email me anytime. I check my email constantly because of the nature of my job, so feel free to reach out to me anytime. You'll also get my email again at the end of the presentation, so if you don't have a second to jot it down now, you'll have that later. And just some background on my credentials. I went to Christopher Newport University for my bachelor's in English, as well as my MAT. And then I got my educational specialist degree here in Virginia Beach at Regent University. So I've had my admin degree for about 5 years now, and it's really great to see how that degree is fitting into technology. So I wanted to get to know you guys a little bit more. So get ready to respond in the chat. I like to call this season the season of figuring out which potatoes to serve. So in the chat, tell me this or that. Are you a regular mashed potatoes kind of person, or are you a sweet potatoes kind of person? Go ahead and answer in the chat. Ooh, both. Yeah, I can relate to both. Give me all the starch, all the carbs. My mother-in-law adds sour cream to her mashed potatoes. Does anyone else do that? Before, I always just did butter, but she does sour cream, and it's interesting. All right, Melinda can relate. I don't sound crazy. She's from North Dakota, so I thought it was like a North Dakota thing, but you know, my potatoes are never good enough to my husband because I don't add sour cream. And I'm a sweet potato person myself. So team sweet potatoes, I am here with you. Now, I don't like putting the marshmallows on top. I'm not into that. Just give me some butter, some mashed potatoes or sweet potatoes, and I'm good to go. So hopefully that was a little fun thinking about that. Now, next, let's switch gears into our teaching style. Are you more of a traditional teaching style? You like lecture, you like discussion, or are you more of that progressive style? Like, let me try everything new. Let me get my hands on like whatever creative idea is out there. Let me get on Teachers Pay Teachers and, you know, try something new. Maybe you're a combination of both. For me, as like a former English teacher, it really depended on the day. I'd like to consider myself more progressive. I imagine most of you are being at this conference, and as tech people, right, we're trying to push other people into, hey, try this. This would fit really great in your classroom, or, you know, we have this great new tool. Let's figure out how we can engage students. Let's figure out how we can get data from this. So Jonathan, I really get that trying to be progressive, right? Sometimes it's so easy to go back to that traditional base. And I don't know if you guys can relate, but, you know, working with teachers, you give them this great new tech tool, you show them how to use it, and then they use it in a very traditional manner, right? Like, let's just write an essay in Cami. And you're like, that's great, but let's try some new stuff. All right, good to see we are on the progressive page here. All right, last one, this or that. Are you a plan ahead sort of person, or are you a last minute creative genius? Again, for me, honestly, like with this, I had to plan ahead. Of course, I wasn't going to embarrass myself in public not planning ahead on this, but I have to say, sometimes I am a last minute creative genius. You know, it depends on the day, guys, right? Especially as our progressive thinkers, right? We get a great idea and we're like, oh, I gotta fit this in. This would work perfectly with this lesson tomorrow. All right, so it really depends on the day for me, but it's good to see that a few of you are out there. All right, so just out of curiosity, we can't really turn and talk here in this digital setting, but I want to have a conversation about what's the issue here? Why are we in a session on bringing digital citizenship to our school, to our students? So in the chat, I'd really like to see some of the issues you guys are currently facing in your building, maybe you're on the district level, and see things from a higher, bigger perspective. I know that some of the ongoing things I've seen in the different districts that I've worked in as an English teacher, plagiarism is like always an issue. It's one of those like timeless issues that I think we'll all have, but teach about it, learn from it, get on with it. We've also had an increase in students recording other students. We've had, a few issues where, there's inappropriate online messages and parents will call in and let us know about, a text message conversation that happened, or you hear about the students, maybe an athletic team, something happened in a group chat, some inappropriate searches and online usage, or maybe even cyberbullying. Bullying is an age-old issue as well, along with plagiarism, right? This is something that we've been dealing with for years and years and years. What are some of the issues that you guys are currently facing? And if it's not on this list, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just kind of what I'm noticing right now. But what are you guys noticing in your school, in your district? What's going on? I think someone's hammering next door. Sorry if you can hear that. Go ahead in the chat. Misuse of devices and technology, inappropriate online usage. So can we expand this idea? What does misuse look like? Like, I see a lot of games, I would say, and the security that pops up in my email, it's like games, trying to stream videos. Games are like the bane of my existence, right? I get 400 emails a day, like so-and-so tried to access games. My son just got in trouble in his own class for playing games during class. I was like, do you know what your mom does? So I see that evaluating research sources. So is that Jonathan? Jonathan, is that like credible versus non-credible sources? Like students are pulling from like Wikipedia or, Google sites? Is that the sort of thing that you're seeing with those evaluating research sources? All right, I see cyberbullying and recording and posting. I'm seeing a lot of agreement with that. Ooh, the filter not working. Melinda, just out of curiosity, do you know what filter you use? We have several, like we're a Google enterprise, so we have the filtering through our Google Workspace, but then we also use Securely on top of that. So just curious, Melinda, what sort of filtering source you use? GoGuardian, okay. Is GoGuardian the only tool that you guys use? Okay. Now I'm seeing, Lee, you mentioned using Chromebook kiosk apps to bypass the filter. Is this like VPNs on cell phones or extensions? And out of curiosity, who's a Google enterprise? Who's part of Google? I know that a lot of the sessions today are how to use Google, all the secrets of Google, try these new things with Google. Oh, okay, that's interesting. So they use the TestNav app as like a browser. Kids are creative in ways that we wish they weren't, right? So I'll tell you that we actually use, and I'm going a little off topic here a little bit, but this has to do with digital citizenship in the sense that you have to have eyes and you have to know what's going on. And that kind of leads into this next concept. Peter Drucker, he was one of the ones that revolutionized our concept of business management. So what is a manager? What is an employee? And he said the most important thing in communication is hearing what isn't said. And I think that's really important with us staying tuned into digital citizenship, because we all know that the internet is growing exceedingly quickly. And we all know that kids are going to find creative ways to use the internet. So we need to be the eyes and ears in our building and see what's going on. So with this filtering issue, for instance, I would recommend multiple filters, especially if one isn't working. Oh, let me go back. So one, we use Google Workspace. If you're not a Google Enterprise, I would definitely look into it. There's just a lot more background constraints on users. And we're also a Chromebook school. So through Google Admin, you can put constraints on the actual devices, and we do an enterprise enrollment so we can see what's actually going into the devices. If a device gets lost, we can see the last person who logged into it. There's just a lot that you can do through Google Admin, but I wouldn't say that's the end all be all with filtering. We use Securely. There is a freemium filter. It has downgraded very recently. In October, they sort of expanded into some new features that are paid features, but you can still get some filtering through Securely. So if you want to try that, I would definitely recommend that. And they'll send me emails. They'll say, you know, that's how I find out how many kids are playing games, or how many kids are trying to use those non-credible websites or dangerous websites, or there's so many different filters. I mean, you can range it from your traditional, like looking up weapons and looking up pornography, all the way down to, you know, blocking games, blocking non-credible sources. So there's an allow block list through there, as well as the allow list and block list through Google. So we sort of double up on that. And then we also have in the classroom, we use Hapara, which is like GoGuardian. This is where teachers can actually watch what's going on the student screens. How many people use that sort of resource out there in your buildings? Do you have something like GoGuardian or Hapara where teachers can watch what's going on a student screen? Okay, Lightspeed, Insight, NetRef, another Hapara user. Okay, GoGuardian. So there's a lot of different tools out there. I would highly recommend this because teachers watching them from the classroom, they're going to be the first eyes. They're going to see it that instance. When my students are taking a quiz, I have my eyes on them and they know that. So that limits cheating. That limits, you know, anything that would go to like an honor council. And then it's also, you know, instead of a student reporting, hey, so-and-so was looking at guns today in class, we also have the teacher is looking at their screens and is able to take screenshots, is able to send messages, is able to stop a computer screen and pause it on whatever the student is doing that's inappropriate. So I would say, like most people say, the first teacher is at home. Well, in the classroom, the first eyes on digital citizenship is in the classroom with the teacher. So we're really emphasizing that this school year with our teachers. I tell them, you know, anytime there's an incident in the classroom, my first question is, were you watching them on Hapara? Did you see what happened on the screen, or did someone report it to you? And if they weren't, I'm like, hey, that would have been really helpful if we had a snapshot of that. So let's make sure we're using that. If you need some assistance, I'm here for you to support it. So just being supportive with your teacher community. I definitely wouldn't reprimand the teachers for not using it in that moment. We all know, like, everyone is multitasking, but if they were using it, great. That is a perfect tool to see what students are doing. I would also, in a more positive light, you have students who, you know, they're a little more advanced and the class might be not at their pace, and a teacher might see them on their computer and maybe they're doing extra research on the topic. It's a way to give them a sort of merit instead of that demerit. So that, does anyone have PBIS in their school? That's a great way to push using these sorts of resources in your classroom, is to say, you know, your first eyes are there and you want to catch someone doing something great, is watching them, what they're doing, making sure they're on track. It's a way to give instant feedback to students. Hey, Tommy and Lisa and Julie, I see that you're all, you know, using that quick trick that I taught you guys earlier in class. You're doing great. And the teacher can see that all at once. So if you don't have that eyes on the screens sort of tool in your school, I would definitely look into that. That's a huge resource when it comes to implementing digital citizenship in your school. So there's two things that I want to really emphasize today in our meeting. And I don't know, does anyone use Character Strong? Has anyone seen that resource? It's a social emotional learning resource, but in the chat, anyone heard of Character Strong? Anyone use Character Strong? I get their weekly emails and they're nice, like little 3-minute social emotional learning resources. Anybody? Yes, no, maybe so. Heard of it, never used it. All right, well, if you've heard of it, you know, go ahead and put it in the chat. But when we were really pushing social emotional learning in Chesapeake Public Schools during the pandemic, this was a resource that I picked up on, and I'm still using here like 3 years later. It's just a nice reminder of how to have positivity in the classroom, how to be supporters of our students because they are learning and they need to learn in their mistakes. You know, every time my son, he's in 7th grade, guys, he is a 7th grader. And every time he makes a mistake, I'm like, hey, you wouldn't be learning without that mistake. I'm really disappointed you made that mistake, but you are learning for sure. So the first concept is that this digital citizenship is so easy to implement. This is what I stole from Character Strong. This is not another item on your plate. It is the actual plate. So if you pick up on that resource, he ends every video like that. And I love it. It's something that's already happening in our schools. We need to address it. We need to be intentional about it, just as I mentioned earlier. So the plate is already there. It's just, how is it organized? Are things flying off the plate? Did they fall on the floor? Or are they all nice and neat? Like those little plates that have the sections on them. How organized is our plate? We need to realize that the plate is there, whether or not we're addressing it. So that's also a way that you can address it with your teachers. It's already here, it's already happening. We are already addressing it every time we write up a student for misuse. We are already addressing it every time we teach about plagiarism, every time we teach about credible and non-credible sources. It's there. We are teaching it, but how organized is it? So let's look into this. With a team, more can be accomplished that you thought was possible. I would not be able to do what I do in our school without my team. So what do we do at Catholic High School here in Virginia Beach? We incorporate lessons into our health curriculum. I would say this is a huge, huge resource for me. We have 2 PE teachers. I know that seems tiny, but it's already built into the curriculum. Whether you're in Clark County, Prince William County, Fairfax County, or right here in Virginia Beach, we already have a health curriculum that addresses digital citizenship. It is part of mental health. It is part of awareness. It's there. So make sure when you're building your team, you include a health and PE teacher that's familiar with the curriculum. It doesn't necessarily have to be the lead. It can be that progressive person on your health and PE team. It can be just the person that seems to know a little bit of everything. But find a health and PE teacher to be on your team when you're looking to develop the digital citizenship standards in your school. We also meet quarterly. I'll show you guys a timeline. You don't need to meet constantly. You don't need to meet every month. A lot can get done just meeting 4 times a year, sometimes just 2 times a year. However, wherever you're at, you can start small and expand. And I'll show you guys some resources later, but you don't want to overwhelm your team the first year that you're implementing this. Out of curiosity, does anyone already have a digital citizenship team or a technology committee in your school that you're already working with? Do you have a team of teachers that you rely on? Or do you have, certain people you just go to already when you're thinking about new ideas? So just in the chat, do you already have people? You have a tech team? Okay. Hey, one other person is still, 2 heads are better than 1. There is no I in team. All right, so Daniel, you say it's just you right now, but you do have a helpful colleague. Again, that's super helpful that you have at least one other person. I know also, on top of my health teachers, my librarian is my right arm. So we work together in the library, and I would not be able to do nearly as much as I do without her brain. So for instance, this year, we have loaner Chromebooks because, students forget them, something happens, whatever. And she put them all in our book system. So all I have to do is check it out through our book system. And that was like a game changer. Such a small step, easy, just putting barcode stickers on the computers, and it's like a game changer for me. So librarians are essential. They are wonderful. The library is really the media center now. So also include your librarian, especially if they're super helpful. There are always those teachers. They're out there, I promise you. All right, so we have a set of guidelines, and I'll give you that in our resources a little bit later. We assess these yearly. So if you don't have a set of guidelines that you have come up with yet, once you develop your tech team, set those guidelines, really organize what you're already doing. Are we teaching about plagiarism? Are we addressing, what's going on with our internet filtering system in the building? And let sort of that organic conversation happen. What are we seeing in the building? And we only do that once a year. And we kind of talk about it at the beginning of the year, what can we do better? And at the end of the year, how did it go? We discuss current situations and respond proactively. So in the past, I know that it was really easy to be reactive, especially with the pandemic, right? All these kids now have one-on-one. Out of curiosity, again, how many of you were one-on-one before the pandemic? Or how many of you became one-on-one because of the pandemic? Or one-to-one? Right before the pandemic. Rob, you got lucky. Rob, I see you're at O'Connell. I went to Paul VI Catholic High School, so we're natural enemies. 101 before the pandemic. All right, because of the pandemic. All right, so it looks like there's a good mix. Now, my one-to-one people before the pandemic, your situations. They have been developed, right? Like those kids that are always just trying to get on games, people looking up inappropriate searches, or, those credible, non-credible sources that you keep seeing popping up. Because of the pandemic people, this can be a little overwhelming. You've got to assess that situation, and a good filtering system is going to help you see some of those things. So make sure that you get that sort of multifaceted filtering system and layer it so that you do have eyes in multiple places watching what the students are doing, because they're creative and they're going to know trends, especially because of social media. They're going to learn things right away and try it right away. They are just as progressive as we are. Consider Be Real, right? This is our newest thing, but this causes so many issues. They're taking pictures, they're potentially having cell phones out in classroom, taking pictures of the kids behind them, taking pictures of inside the building. There's a lot going on with Be Real. So, you know, while it seems like a positive SEL sort of thing, there are some other things that we need to assess with that. We also use our announcements. We have video announcements. We pre-record them, but we set little reminders like, hey, students, just a reminder that your Chromebook is for academic purposes only. Or, you know, hey, students, check out this website that our librarian has. They have plenty of databases to use. So go talk to your librarian about credible sources that the library already has for you. This is a nice way to just like put in those little bits of information. And then in order to, I don't know if you guys have this problem, but you know, since I was in high school, this has been a problem. Kids don't listen to the announcements. They tune it out. They're talking to their friend. They come in late, whatever the situation is. We use lunches for trivia and prizes. I get my prizes from Five Below. You can get like a little sleeve of mini Play-Dohs. Kids love those things. I just recently found like Sour Patch Kids chapstick, great for winter. You know, little things like that that aren't like these huge gift cards or whatever. Giving them out prizes for what they know, like, hey, on the announcements today, what resource did we tell you to use? And if they're like, sorry, you don't get the prize. But if they're like, hey, you told us to go to the librarian, you're like, yeah, pick a prize. And we have 3 lunches and, you know, it's 3 little prizes. So consider trivia and prizes to help you out in that sort of sense. I also want to show you guys what we do in the classroom. So my tech plan here, you guys can access this. This presentation is posted for you guys to share, but here's Catholic High School's technology plan. We modeled ours off another Catholic school, but this has everything that we want to share with stakeholders. So parents can see this, other administrators can see this, students can see this. So it's really easy to go back to the student and say, hey, this was in the acceptable use policy that you signed off on. Let's look at this. You know, that it's in an easy to reach place on our website and it has everything that we need. Now, something like this, I used my tech team to develop. We talked about it. We figured out our philosophy. We figured out our guiding principles. And we really looked at what we want to share with the world about what we do with technology. This took about a year to implement, to go over, I mean, among the millions of things we do as techies at our job, this took a year to implement. So that if this is something that you think that your school needs to develop, to hone, to have something to look at for several years, notice that ours is through 2027. So it's sort of a living document that as we notice things, we update, but this is our set plan from now through 2027. I would highly recommend having something like this. But we also go off our guiding principles, and hopefully everyone can see this okay. So it mentions that we follow the Diocese of Richmond. That's just like our public school system, and that we follow ISTE standards, surprise, and that we also follow curriculum. We're a STEAM model school, so we mentioned that in there, but all these bullets, this is what I go over with my tech team. Are we a learning environment that provides access to technology? What does that look like? What's the technology we're talking about? Is it just Chromebooks or is it all my resources? Do they have reliable and consistent access to the internet? But do they have reliable and consistent access to a safe internet as well? Seamless implementation of technology when applied. When my teachers go to use Screencastify or WeVideo, is it accessible? Is it easy for them to use? Or is it just constantly loading? Or the page gets blocked by the filtering system? Is it hard for teachers to use or is it easy for them to use? Especially with your systems like Papara or Go Guardian, or let me look up the other one, Lightspeed or NetRef. Is that working for them, or is it such a pain that your teachers are not using it? Which then it's not really helpful, is it? So just, I would go through this and figure out if this is the right thing for you to assess with your team. But these are our bullets that we go through. I think there's 9 of them. And that's what we consistently go back to every single time. And it makes it easier when we're discussing, what's next for our school, what's happening right now. I'll share some bulletin boards that I do on the next slide. You don't have to be creative to make a bulletin board, even if you have one space in your whole building, change it out 4 times a year, once a year, you can make it happen. I'll give you guys resources for bulletin boards. But the documents you see below, one on media addiction, hoaxes and fakes, privacy settings, cyberbullying and digital drama, and location services, these were all made by students this year. They were all made with Canva, and they were all made in our health and PE classes, because again, it's part of the curriculum. You already have your team, you already have what's in front of you. Canva is so easy to use. Students can make amazing products from it. And honestly, the students did an amazing job. I posted them all over the school after they did them. I just pulled the first 5 that I found off Google Classroom, because they were all amazing, because Canva makes it that easy. But if the students are doing this in 9th grade, these are all freshmen, they're carrying it with them for 4 years. So again, we are very intentional. Something I forgot to add on here, but we also invited our local Commonwealth Attorney's Office to come speak to the students. This was about more serious offenses on cell phones, like sexting or cyberbullying over text messages or social media. But for them to come in, it's like, as a parent, when you tell your kid don't do that, but then someone else comes in and says don't do that, and they're like, oh yeah, I shouldn't do that, and you're like, yeah, you shouldn't. It's just like that. So even though I can go into these classrooms every single year and tell our students, hey, don't do this, this is bad. How many of you have followers on Instagram that you don't know? That's dangerous. They're still going to keep them until the Commonwealth Attorney's Office came in and kids are deleting followers by the masses because, it was a little scary, them sharing real stories about what they had to do legally. So if you can find your local Commonwealth attorney contact, it was an amazing presentation. It was all relevant information. The students had tons of questions at the end. Very, very relevant. Again, Commonwealth Attorney's Office, highly recommended. Here's the bulletin boards I did earlier this year for Digital Citizenship Week. Get caught on a safe web, and then it's like, have productivity, have motivation, be safe, don't share your password. I know it's a little blurry, but I got all of these from Erin Integration. Does anyone follow her on Instagram or Teachers Pay Teachers? Anyone heard of her before? I put her handle below the bulletin board on the left. I would use everything of hers if I could. It's very creative. It's geared from elementary all the way through high school, which my high school people, sometimes it can be harder to find, right? To find stuff geared toward high schoolers versus elementary school students. So Air Integration is a wonderful resource. I'll come back to that later. So this is our timeline that we do at Catholic High School. We start a little bit earlier than everyone. We start in August. So when school starts, that's our first technology team meeting, and we kind of go over some ideas. And then October, my focus is Digital Citizenship Week, but I make sure I've talked to my health and PE teacher. I make sure I've talked to the librarian, English teachers. On my technology team, I'd like to have someone from each department. I know that's not possible for all of you, but some of you, if it's just you and the librarian, it's helpful. If it's just you and that helpful colleague, it's helpful. 2 heads are better than 1. So if you start off small, maybe next year pull in one other person. But I highly, highly, highly recommend having a team because you don't want to carry the weight of this all yourself. It can become very stressful. Sometime in December around exams, we have our second meeting in April. Just after spring break, I find that people are a little more refreshed than right before. And then our final technology team meeting is during the final exams. So 4 times a year, meet with these teachers, try to figure out when they're available. And I have found that this works. Again, if you have a smaller team or it's a little harder to meet, maybe start off with 2 times a year and develop up into this. But this takes time to get to this. The second thing I'd like to share with you guys is teaching digital citizenship is critical in this digital age. We know that, as mentioned before, the internet is rapidly expanding. Apps are rapidly expanding. I was half joking with someone the other day. What is 10 years from now going to look like? What are our students going to be doing in 10 years? What are we going to be able to do in 10 years? I just noticed there's a company, I want to say it's a popular one, like Ray-Ban. They have cameras in their glasses now, like right here on the corners. You can buy glasses like we would see an Inspector Gadget with cameras in them. So, now right before testing, we tell students to put away their phones and take off their smartwatches. Now we're going to say, remove your glasses and your watches and your phones. What are people going to be doing soon? So this is so critical that we stay on top of it, to be proactive about it. If we're not constantly having conversations about it, it's going to creep on us faster than we even recognize. So let's do some planning here. I'm going to share a resource with you guys in the chat. Go ahead and open up the Jamboard that I just shared in the chat. When it's open, just go ahead and type open in the chat so I know you have it open.
Need access.
Oh, need access. Should be a copy. You should just be able to click make a copy. Let me try a new link. Did it work for you guys?
No, not for me either.
Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Let me try. I feel like I'm copying and pasting the same thing. Let me try one more thing. Sorry about this, guys. Share with anyone with the link. Copy link. Okay, let's see. Try it now. Let me know what happens. It's good now?
Yes.
Love Google. All right, yes, make your own copy. This is for you. Excellent. Woo. Okay, so has anyone done a SWOT analysis before? I actually got this idea from Slides Carnival. Those little like slides that you typically delete. It was in there. So this is a great business development tool. I want you to go ahead and analyze your current school or district. What are the current strengths you have when it comes to digital citizenship? To type, go ahead and I'll share my screen with you real quick. On the left, go ahead and choose the text box tool, and you can just put it right next to there and type. Or if you're a handwriter, you can pick the pen. But go ahead and do an analysis. What are your strengths? Then consider your weaknesses. Do you have a small team? Do you have no team? No resources planned? Once you've analyzed your strengths and weaknesses, go ahead and look at your opportunities. Where's there room to grow here? Let's not look at it as something that's already failed or something that's already overwhelming. Where's the door opening? Can you do digital citizenship next October? There's a week every year. It's around the 18th. This year, I think it was like the 18th to the 21st. But every October, toward the end of October, there's a digital citizenship week. Maybe that's where you can start. Plan your digital citizenship week for next year. And what are your threats? This seems so extreme, but what are the threats to the system? What are the threats to this not happening? What's stopping it from happening? What's going to make it difficult to implement? And I'm going to share just some things I considered when planning this on the screen. So if you look at mine, the strengths of analyzing this for our own school was that it was going to build a positive climate and community. It's strengthening students' ownerships of their own actions. Ownership is such an important thing to me. Like, you did this, you need to take responsibility for it. What are your next steps because of what you have done? Build skills for future workforce positions. So just as fast as technology is rushing at us, these are creating new jobs for our students. The more we expose them to digital citizenship in the digital world, the more likely they are to develop new jobs themselves, to go into these jobs that don't exist yet, but will. These are really, really great strengths here. Weaknesses, there can be room for miscommunication. There can be room to be like, this is wrong, and you do this wrong, and you do this wrong, which is totally against the whole concept of PBIS, right? So it can be a little attack mode. So you got to be really careful of that. Now with opportunities, we are in an ever-changing, ever-growing technological world. So whatever comes our way, we can use it to our benefit. And it prepares students for a 21st century digital world. That's our end goal, is to prepare students, to have them graduate our building with skills necessary to survive in the real world. So what skills are we giving them? What resources, what little mental tips are we giving them? And then threats, outside constituents, people looking on the outside looking in. How are they judging it? Are they thinking that we're controlling students? Are they thinking that, we're not doing enough? All right, Rebecca said in the chat, have recently been having discussions on how we can encourage and teach students to use technology for good versus always focusing on how not to use technology. Exactly, yeah. To market themselves in a positive way on social media for colleges, future employers, etc., or to further our cause I care about. Yeah, this is really great for those students that you can really target your students that want to be top 10% of the class. We have a lot of students who want to go to Ivy League schools at Catholic high school. So, we kind of target them. What does your social media look like? Are you, when we also talk to the 9th graders as well, your social media is a living advertisement of you. How realistic is that advertisement? How positive is that advertisement? Are you going for just being funny? Or are you going for, I am a change maker, I am a creative agent in this world that is gonna do good? You know, what image are you creating for yourselves? That's one of the things that I talk to our ninth graders about when I go in our health and PE classes. So definitely a good concept, Rebecca. Definitely something you want to talk about with your technology team, especially that health PE. And the last thing too, just as much as it's an opportunity, it can also be a threat. That ever-changing, ever-growing technological world, right? Be Real seems like a really awesome app, but some scary stuff can happen with it as well. So, you know, we've got to be on that. Anything else anyone would like to share that they found in their analysis that you think would be a benefit for all? Any strengths, any weaknesses, any opportunities or threats that you guys can see that you think everyone else might benefit from hearing? Go ahead and paste that into the chat. This SWOT analysis is definitely something I want you guys to walk away with, having analyzed where you're at and implementing that digital citizenship plan for your building or for your district. Where are you at right now? And then this is something I would reanalyze in a year or two. Do you have the same strengths? Have your strengths grown? Are they weaker? Are your weaknesses more or less? Have they changed entirely? Opportunities for sure will be different. Threats for sure will develop. Rob says, our students know about the new apps before the teachers do. This is true. Just as much as they say like lingo that we don't understand, those apps are out there that they're using and we have no idea. So just like that quote by Peter Drucker, we have to be the eyes and ears on everything, right? We have to constantly be analyzing and assessing what they're doing. We have to be watching. We have to know. So, you know, something that I'm still developing that I hope to have in place 100% by next year is having a student technology team. Does anyone in the chat want to share? Do you have a student technology team? This is a great opportunity. Something you could add is developing a student technology team, because they're in the know. They watch what other people do. They see what other students are using. They're in the midst of it. Rebecca mentions lack of time and energy to devote to creating a team and growing a program at building level could be a threat. I agree. This can be a very overwhelming task. Yeah, there are high days and low days when it comes to this. But I think having a timeline does help in sort of attacking that threat. Develop your timeline and say, I'd like to meet on this day. This is going to be our first meeting. And then even if you get through that first meeting, that's a step that you took that you didn't take before. So just moving on from here, I hope you guys keep thinking about that, keep analyzing that even after you've left your little group powwow here. But here's some resources I want to share with you guys. Again, this presentation is going to be shared with you. So you'll have links to this, but Common Sense Media, if you haven't heard of it, this is like my #1 tool. You can become a Common Sense school, and that the link there actually opens up into a document where you can self-assess your school, and it tells you like, do 3 lessons from Common Sense Media. What 3 lessons are you going to do? And you can pull from their lessons. So this is cool. There's no real benefit outside of the fact that you are implementing digital citizenship and you can put a little badge on your website. Erin Flanagan is who I mentioned earlier. She's great with bulletin boards and just ideas with technology. Again, she does kindergarten like all the way through high school. So she's great. I follow her on Instagram. She has great stuff. Canva, of course, is like the latest and greatest tool. It's free for education. If you guys didn't know that, Canva is free for educators. It's a limited access, but teachers can save, students can use it. It's great. Nearpod has digital citizenship resources. If you go into the Nearpod library and search digital citizenship, it pops up. And then I Can Help is a resource I just recently learned about, and they address cyberbullying. I know a couple schools mentioned that cyberbullying was an issue. I can help. You can sign up with their newsletter, and they have monthly challenges for you to push out. You can do a choice board with them, or you can do some other things with that. But your next steps, this is actually the second page of your Jamboard. This is something that I'd like you guys to utilize after we've left here today. But step one is, what are the top 2 issues in your building or district that you would like to address? So beating that burnout before you get to it. Don't let it be overwhelming. Pick 1 or 2 issues that you would like to address, either starting right now or starting next school year. Who's on your team? Is it just 2 people? Is it 1 from each department? But who's on your team? And step 3, what are you going to do to address those issues? What first step are you going to take into implementing a true digital citizenship plan in your school? I would definitely use that common sense school resource if you need a starting place. They have lessons, they have videos, they have trivia, they have they have everything up there. So step 3, if step 3 feels really overwhelming, you know what your issues are, and you can type that directly into Common Sense. If plagiarism is your issue, just type plagiarism into Common Sense, and all these lessons pop up for every single grade level. So I hope those resources are helpful for you guys, but please, 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 if this digital citizenship plan is something that you know you can do, I hope that this has motivated you to start moving forward in that direction. But we're running out of time, so I was just wondering if anyone had any questions at the end of today, or maybe just share something that a takeaway. If you don't have a question, what's something you're going to take away from today? So any questions or anything that you're going to take away from our time today? Recruit students. Yes, they're the ones that know. Student technology team. Yes. And they can be helpful when you're busy and a teacher's like, hey, Screencastify won't load. And I'm like, hey, buddy, can you go help her real quick? They are super, super helpful. Any other takeaways? Any questions? Seems like the student tech team is going to be really popular. That can be a lot of people's step 3. Develop that student tech team, right? All right, so we're wrapping up for today. There's only like 3 more minutes left. But if you have any questions, feel free to still type them in the chat. Please, if you have any questions, if you need someone to bounce ideas off of, if you think of anything, if you've tried anything over the next year that you think was super exciting, engaging, helpful, informative, whatever, email me. Let me know. Keep in touch with me. My email's on the screen. It's wollerss@chsvb.org, Catholic High School, Virginia Beach.org. But I hope you guys keep in touch with me. I am here to assist you guys through thick and thin. If you have any threats you run into, any issues you run into as you're developing this plan, let me know. Hopefully you guys are walking away with some resources in your tool belt. Hopefully you guys are walking away with something where you can become intentional with bringing digital citizenship to your school. Thank you guys. Thank you for engaging. Thank you for being here, taking your time.
I'm going to jump in here and thank you again for participating and for presenting. Great job. Enjoy the rest of your conference.